Hey, how's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing well. I just want to say happy Thursday to you. I hope that you're all well and safe. And I just want to come here today just to say thank you for your subscriptions as well as your comments. I've really appreciated your feedback as well. I really do appreciate that. And I'm just so blessed to be able to be here to spend this time to talk to you about one of the things that really is important in business, and that is how do you pay your staff members. Excuse me, just drink my tea. How's everyone doing today? Right, so today is about, excuse me about my cough. Today is about how invoice factoring finance can pay your staff wages on time. Because there's nothing worse than having a business and your staff have gone out and you haven't been paid on time by a supplier. Sorry, from a buyer or a supplier, for example. And that can leave you in difficulty with your cash flow and also paying your staff as well. So today's video is about invoice factoring finance. It will help you in so many different ways, and I can't talk highly enough about this because it is something I truly believe in. Now, when your business is growing in your healthcare business or any type of business, just look at it this way. For 1 month, you've invoiced for that month, but you're not going to get paid for it until 30 days later. But then in that 30 days later, you've actually increased your hours. So you're doing more work for the invoice that you've just invoiced for. And imagine that you're paying your staff wages weekly or bi-weekly, for example. So what can happen there is that you could end up growing too fast, that it doesn't meet the needs of the 30-day invoice. And that is where invoice finance can be really helpful for any type of business as well. Now, when you're looking at your staff members and you've got these invoices that are outstanding, for example, and then the client hasn't paid you, it could be a month, it could be 2 months that you haven't been paid, it could be 3 months, 4 months. What do you do in that situation? Of course, yes, you stop the service, but that doesn't help you when you haven't been paid. Where are you going to get this money from? Thin air? Or you do invoice finance and factoring, and you can usually do this when it is business to business, i.e. government organizations, care homes, for example. And this works really well in this particular situation because there is nothing worse, like I said, than you've got no income to pay the wage that's coming in for that week, and yet you've increased your hours. So the invoice that you have invoiced for a month later isn't part of the new invoice that has been increased, and your agency staff are getting paid weekly, for example, or bi-weekly. Also, you could get it where a client just cancels and that income that you was relying on is no longer there, for example. So there's multiple ways and reasons why invoice factoring comes into place, because whatever it is, it will help you to pay your staff wages, for example, as well as your cash flow. It will also help you to pay for bills and things like that. So it really does help a business. And today's video is what I'm going to be talking to you about: how to do invoice, factoring and finance, and how it helps to pay your staff wages, but also helps with your cash flow. It is a great cash flow solution. And yes, they do charge you, because nothing is free. For example, the banks usually charge around about 3 to 5%, for example, which, you know, at the end of the day, if it helps your business to keep afloat, then that's something that you have to factor in and put your, pardon the pun, you have to factor in. But you've got to also look at your rates to cover that 3% that you have to pay, for example, monthly. So make sure that you add that onto your hourly rate, for example, or that is covering for the invoices that you've raised, for example. So maybe you put another 3% on the total amount. Yeah, does that make sense? Obviously VAT is VAT, you can't, there's nothing you can do about that, but you put the 3% on top of that invoice so that you know what hourly rates that you're going to charge is going to actually cover that 3% or 5% that the banks will charge you for having invoice factoring or invoice finance fee, for example, which, you know, we have to pay. Okay, so I'm going to go into this training with you, this course with you, free course. And what I want to say first of all is thank you and welcome to everyone that's here on the live stream and even watching the replay. I really do appreciate your feedback. And today we're going to dive into the topic about critical things that a business owner needs to be aware of, and especially helping you to manage your cash flow, because there's nothing worse than you being stressed. It can actually make you ill. It can actually cause inflammation in the body. It can cause illness if you don't get your cash flow ready for when you've got orders coming through. Because like I said, there's nothing worse when you haven't been, for example, it could take 3 months before you get paid for an invoice. And then how are you going to pay for things, for example? So bear that in mind. So this is a really good solution, and we're going to be exploring this in depth about how invoice finance can help your business solve the cash flow that you may be experiencing, which is causing you challenges right now. And it will also ensure that your business runs smoothly, you know, just not having that problem anymore of cash flow. So before we get started, I would love for you to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're excited about learning about how invoice finance works, then feel free to reach out to me, and you can book a free appointment as well. You can also, you know, put a question in the comment section and I will look to answer it. I'll probably do a video on it if there's enough questions, for example, but I'll cover your question anyway, whether it's 1 or 2 or, you know, 4, for example. I will answer that question. So just a brief introduction. In case you don't know who I am, I've been in business now for 40 years. I've been in healthcare business now for 35 years. And I want to help you to optimize your finance. So I've been trying to do these trainings. Well, I'm doing them every day. You notice I'm on here every day on YouTube because I think it's the perfect platform for this. And I also specialize in helping companies like yours, for example, with cash flow issues, and like today, for example. And I'm excited to share a powerful tool that helped companies like yours in business to run smoothly. And it's called Invoice Finance. It can also be known as invoice factoring. It can also be known as debt factoring or debt invoice, for example. You know, sometimes there's angels as well that can lend you the money as well. But I'm just showing you this because this is something which is quite straightforward. You can apply online, you can get a quote, you can go to any of the mainstream banks if you want to, but type in, for example, if you're in the UK, Barclays Bank, Invoice Finance, Lloyds Bank, Invoice Finance, NatWest, HSBC, major banks are doing this. Just like in America, they've got ADP for payroll and things like that. So there's plenty of things out there that you can use to help you to pay for staff members. But you've got to ensure that those invoices are paid on time, because if those invoices aren't paid on time, it can literally cause a block in your cash flow in your business, literally. So I'll give you an example here. So for example, you've got invoices outstanding, say 30,000, for example, and they're 3 months old, where the client hasn't paid for months and months and months, but yet you've got staff members to pay. So what do you think the cause and effect of that is going to be on your business? It's going to be a detriment, isn't it? Because it's going to affect how you pay people that are doing the work. The staff members in your office, they're working, they're there working the hours. And sometimes, for example, they're actually doing more hours than what they're actually being paid for. But yet they're not charging you for it. So that's something that you need to also be mindful of. So I'm going to explain the scenario here. So you got invoices for 3 months, they haven't been paid for 3 months, and you've got your bills to pay, you've also got your invoices to pay, you've got your staff wages to pay, for example. You've sent the invoice, but they haven't been paid.